Thank you. All right, let's see what we got next. So let's talk about the organization. I said KM is the way that organizations learn, and remember that, and processes are the way to do it. One of the ways that we learn is through pilots. We're a big advocate, if you're going to implement a new program or try something new, do 3 pilots first. And the reason for that, one of them is going to be wildly successful, one's not going to be so good, and the other one's going to be pretty darn good too. So but the main reason is that you learn so much through the pilot. Why guess when you can know? If you want to know what's going to happen if you implement Yammer, why guess when you can know? Do a pilot of it. If you wonder if something's going to affect sales, why guess when you can know? Do a pilot of it. And then you've also got data that proves out the case, and you've learned enough to make it better next time. The very first project that Cindy and I worked on together, she's busy tweeting right now, but she'll remember this. The very first project we worked on together was Best Buy. Those of you who are Americans, North Americans, you know who Best Buy is? It's a huge big box, big blue box retail store, and they sell electronics and washing machines, and at that time, they were selling the first ISPs, Internet Service Provider packages with MSN, Microsoft. And some of their stores were doing well, and some of their stores were not doing well, and they thought, why can't we share best practices between the stores, and APQC, can you help us? So we went in and we did. We did some pilots between the districts who used a knowledge-sharing community and how many MSN packages they sold versus those who didn't have a community. And those where they had a community and most of the employees participated in it had higher sales. So they had advocacy, because I'll tell you, there's somebody if you want to do something that costs money and you got to convince a store or regional manager to do it, you better have data. So I don't know about you guys, do you need data to convince people sometimes to spend some money? Data's good. Here's another one. This was on when they would do their repairs, electronic repairs. It's now the Geek Squad, but at that time it was the repair centers, service centers. And they saved, at that time, it didn't seem like a lot. It was like $11 repair job. But you multiply that by thousands of times, and you got in serious money, and it got people's attention. This is another area where you can focus, given all the things we have to do. If you were in a workshop earlier this week, you probably saw this diagram, which is our APQC's knowledge loss matrix. What we're trying to do is say, where is the most critical knowledge in your organization, and where is it most likely, what are the consequences of the loss? So that you can focus on those areas that are in the upper right-hand corner. So those are some tips and tricks that we're doing. So this is just to leave you on this thing about what does it take for an organization to learn. It takes all those processes of lessons learned and best practice transfer and communities of practice, but it also takes people. There's a lot of roles that need to be played. You're going to need mentors to scaffold. One of the most important things you can do for a novice or an expert is to have an expert close by to help them correct and reflect and learn from what they do. You're going to need Sherpas to lead them. You need people in a community, you need people who can point them to the right stuff and to the right people. So you need Sherpas. I mean, Sergey Tenzay got to the top of Everest first. And you need experts to teach, because they know what they don't know, and they can still empathize with people who are novices. And then one way the novices learned is they scribe for the experts and experts. They can be in a position to help you capture what they learn inside your communities. The other thing that an organization can learn is it can learn how to do knowledge management. It's a process. It's a competency. These are the 12 sort of sub-competencies that we find as part of knowledge management maturity. And I think many of you are if you're members of APQC, you can do an assessment. It's included in your membership of your competency in this level. The reason that we think it's important and are kind of excited about it is recently someone did a PhD research project using our members and customers and their results from the Knowledge Management Capability Assessment Tool, or what we call fondly the KMCAT. Meow. And what we found was those organizations that had higher maturity had 2 times better financial performance. So the return on assets, the higher their knowledge management maturity was, and the higher the return on sales was. They had a higher return on sales if they had higher knowledge management maturity. So I have a question for you. So we kind of move toward the end, and I want to share with you a